Have you ever been told that you have so much potential so many times that it stopped feeling like encouragement and started feeling like pressure, sitting quietly on your chest every single day? At first, it sounds like a gift. People look at you and say you are smart, adaptable, capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You pick things up quickly. You understand patterns. You see possibilities others miss. And for a while, you believe it. But then something subtle begins to change. That same sentence starts to follow you like a shadow you cannot outrun. Because having potential does not mean you have arrived. It means you are not there yet. It means you could become something, but right now you are still in between. And that space between what you are and what you could be slowly becomes uncomfortable. Because when you can be anything, choosing one thing starts to feel like losing everything else. So instead of choosing you, pause. You think, you analyze, you compare, you open 10 tabs, then 20, then 50. You research every option, every path, every possibility. You tell yourself you are preparing, that you are being smart, that you are just making sure you do not make a mistake. But time does not stop while you think. And one day you realize something that is hard to admit. You have been standing still for a long time. Not because you are lazy, not because you lack ambition, but because you care too much about choosing the right path. You want certainty. You want a guarantee that the decision you make will lead somewhere meaningful. You want to know that your effort will not be wasted. You want to avoid regret before it even has a chance to exist. But that desire creates a trap. Because the more options you have, the harder it becomes to choose. We live in a world where everything is available. Every career, every lifestyle, every version of success is visible and accessible. Your phone shows you thousands of lives you could live, and your brain interprets that as freedom. But what it actually creates is pressure. Because when there are 100 possible paths in front of you, choosing one does not feel like progress. It feels like closing 99 doors. And your mind does something that you may not even notice. It begins to grieve. It grieves the versions of you that will never exist. The cities you will not move to, the careers you will not pursue, the lives you will not live. Before you even begin your journey, you are already mourning the paths you did not take. And that emotional weight makes it even harder to move. So you stay where it feels safe. You stay in your head, because inside your head, everything is still perfect. The plan works. The idea shines. The version of you in your imagination never fails. And as long as you do not act, that version of you remains untouched. But there is a truth here that you need to face. Overthinking is not preparation. It is protection. It protects you from failure. It protects you from disappointment. It protects your identity from being tested by reality. Because the moment you act, something changes. Things become real. Mistakes happen. You face resistance. And suddenly the perfect version of yourself in your mind disappears. So your brain chooses to delay. It tells you to wait a little longer, to research a little more, to plan a little deeper, to prepare just a bit better. But ready is a moving target. It keeps shifting every time you get closer. And while you wait to feel ready, life keeps moving without you. And this is not just happening in your thoughts. Your body feels it too. You may notice a tightness in your chest when you think about decisions, a knot in your stomach that appears without warning, a sense of restlessness that you cannot fully explain. Your nervous system is reacting to uncertainty as if it were danger. Every choice feels like risk. Every possibility feels like pressure. So your body stays in a constant state of alert. And that state drains your energy. You feel tired not because you have done too much, but because you have been carrying the weight of too many possibilities. You are not just thinking about one path. You are thinking about all of them at the same time. And no mind can hold that without feeling overwhelmed. This is where many people misunderstand themselves. They think they are indecisive. But what is really happening is fear of choosing wrong, fear of wasting time, fear of regret. So instead of choosing one path, you keep all of them open. But keeping every door open has a hidden cost. You never walk through any of them. And over time, that becomes its own form of pain. There is something else you may have told yourself. That you are someone with many interests, that you are curious, that you are capable of doing many things. And that is true. But there is a hidden danger in that identity. Because sometimes having many interests becomes a way to avoid commitment. You start something new and it feels exciting. It feels full of potential. It feels alive. But then reality arrives. Things become difficult. Progress slows down, and the shine begins to fade. So you move to something else. Not because you are exploring, but because you are escaping. You are escaping the moment where effort becomes necessary. The moment where discipline matters more than inspiration. And without realizing it, you fall into a cycle. Starting, stopping, restarting, again and again, always moving but never arriving. This is the difference between someone who explores and someone who avoids. An explorer goes deep, an avoider keeps moving. So the real question is not whether you have potential. The real question is whether you can stay long enough to turn that potential into something real. Because potential alone changes nothing. Action does. And action requires something that feels uncomfortable. Commitment, not forever, just for now. Think of your attention like a stream of water. If you spread it across a wide surface, it barely touches anything. But if you focus it in one direction, it gains force. It becomes capable of creating change. You do not need to be one thing for the rest of your life. But you do need to be one thing long enough to see what happens when you stop switching. So how do you begin? You start by letting go of the idea of the perfect choice. Because it does not exist. There is no path without uncertainty. There is no decision without risk. So instead of searching for the best option, you choose an option that is good enough to begin. And that small shift changes everything. Because movement creates clarity. Thinking alone never will. Then you reduce the space where overthinking grows. When something is small, you act immediately. You do not give your brain time to build doubt. You move before hesitation has a chance to appear. And slowly you retrain your mind to associate action with safety instead of fear. You also change how you see commitment. You stop thinking in terms of forever, and you start thinking in terms of periods. You choose one direction, and you stay with it for a defined amount of time. Long enough to learn, long enough to experience reality, without the pressure of making a permanent decision. And then comes the most important shift. You redefine failure. You stop seeing mistakes as proof that you chose wrong, and start seeing them as information. Because every action gives you something that thinking never can. Feedback, reality, understanding, and that is how clarity is built. Not in your head, but through experience. Your potential is not something you owe the world. You do not need to maximize it every second to be worthy. You do not need to become everything you could be. It is okay to choose something simple. It is okay to move slowly. It is okay to be imperfect. Because a real life lived fully with mistakes and uncertainty will always be more meaningful than a perfect life that only exists in your imagination. So if you have been waiting for the right moment, the right plan, the right version of yourself, this is your moment. Not because everything is clear, but because it is not. Choose one path, take one step, move forward, and let reality shape you into someone thinking alone never could. Because your life will not change when you find the perfect answer. It will change the moment you stop waiting for it.